Hey, it's Kim. I don't know if you noticed, but I have a lot of plants. I really love plants. I have a lot of them. I want to show them to you. So today we're doing a plant tour. Alright, so I have a lot of grow lights going on and I don't want to set up a tripod. So the lighting may be a bit weird in certain angles, but I wanted to give you a bit of an introduction before I take you through all of the plants. I do have a plant tour from 2021. Early 2021 that is on my channel. It's a two-parter. We are not doing two parts today. I'm gonna try and do this all in one video. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be quick, but it'll be one video. And I think what I'm going to do, instead of talking a lot about each plant, I'll do follow-up videos covering my collection. So I have a lot of philodendrons, I have a lot of Hoyas, I have a lot of Alocasias, a lot of Calatheas. I will not do a Calathea video, but I think I'll do videos about those collections where I'll go in depth about my care and what I like and don't like and all those additional details. So that should be coming up soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to make sure to catch all of that information. So today we're just going to breeze through all of my plants. I'll give you information about where I have them, the type of lighting conditions that I have for them, if some are like sunlight, if some are artificial grow lights. We'll talk through all of that. This is what I would consider beginning of the growing season, so everything is not in its permanent home necessarily, and I do actually have a few plants outside, just a couple. I think I will take you through those so you can see them, and I believe that's about it. Let's get started. Okay, so we'll start here in my living room, which is where a lot of my plants reside. Like I said, they're grow lights, so it's throwing things off a bit. I have a mess of plant pots there. Again, it's the beginning of the growing season. I just bought a lot of new plant pots and I'm kind of switching things over to prettier pots because Target actually had a clearance sale. But anyway, I digress. So this is the shelf that I have in my living room area, and I'll take you from the top. So over here I have a variegated heartleaf philodendron that was gifted to me by my wonderful plant friend. And then this one is actually philodendron Gabby that doesn't love me, but I don't know, I guess it's doing all right. It's pushing out a leaf, even though it lost like 4 other leaves that it did have. And I'm trying to see if I can focus. No, I'm focusing on the other thing. I don't know. Let's see. Can I go this way? Okay. So that is a philodendron Gabby. Doesn't look like much, but she is pushing out a new leaf. This one back here is a Silverian Syndapsis that I just have living in some pond. So these are kind of like recent propagations, even though this was fully rooted at the same time as this one, and clearly they are doing different things. But I lost I think 2 cuttings of this, and this cutting specifically have 4 leaves. Like I said, dropped all the leaves and we're down to here. So that's what we're looking like. By my philodendron update video, I would hope to be able to say that it looks a lot better. This one over to the right is a philodendron Rio, and that's a heartleaf with the patterning of a Rio. And then this one to the right of that is a silver stripe philodendron. So very similar. They look a lot alike. It's hard for even me to tell the difference without consulting like a graphic to see exactly how they're different. But that's what those two are. And then back here is a Jacinia pothos. And then this one is a global green pothos. And this one to the right of that is an emerald pothos. So this is my collection of pothoses. Pothos. And then right back behind here is a Mandula pothos that I have climbing up a pole. I recently put a lot of my plants on these lazy moss poles that you can see talked about by Unplant Parenthood, and you don't even grow here. They have videos talking about these poles, and they are super easy, super lazy, and all of the plants that I've put on these poles so far, I really love them. So you'll see a few of those. Again, that's a Mandula pothos. And then in the front of this shelf, I have a few Alocasia babies. This one is an Alocasia reticulata. which is similar to a Zabrina, but the leaves have a reticulated pattern. You could probably Google what a mature one looks like, or maybe I'll put a screenshot in here of what those leaves look like. They're really cool. And then right back behind that, I have an Alocasia scalprum that's putting out a new leaf at the moment while that older leaf is dying off, but that's an Alocasia scalprum. And then this one over here is an Alocasia aslanii, which has a really pretty pink iridescent sheen to the leaves. Can't really see it in this light all that well. And then this is some cuttings that I have from my silver band Maranta. It's actually extremely well rooted and gross in there, and I should have potted it up a long time ago, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. So we'll see, because I already have a full pot. And then here is a Hoya. That's a David Cumingiana or Cumingi. I don't really know the name. It was like a freebie cutting that somebody gave me. And then back here I have a Hoya Wayetii Laurulin, as well as Sigillatus. Is it Wayetii Kentiana Laurulin? I don't know. There's one that it likely is and the other that it's not. I get Wayetii and Kentiana confused. I think it's Kentiana Laurulin. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. And then this is a Hoya Sigillatus. Both of these are cuttings from my larger plants that I'll be potting back into those pots as soon as they're ready. They're actually both well rooted, but I just haven't done it yet. And then we move down to this next shelf, and this is my Hoya shelf. So I have two Hoya shelves. This is the first Hoya shelf, and up here in the front, this is a Hoya Marillii, and then this is a Hoya Bella Lita Bois, and then this is a Hoya Bella Albo Marginata. I've heard it called Anike Bois, I don't know. And then this one here is a Hoya Natalie. Right here is a Hoya Chincongensis, and it's a really long, and I'm going to be chopping this one back and propping it as well to put it into the pot. Right back there we have a Hoya Croniana Black Leaves, and it just finished flowering. There's about 6 or 7 peduncles on there, and I don't see any peduncles starting up again, but it did just finish flowering. Right next to that is my Hoya Mathilde. And when I do my Hoya video, I will take these all out and show you a bit more detail, but I just don't want to rearrange and disassemble any of this. So right in the front, this is a Finlaysonii Splash, and there are 3 cuttings in here. It seems to grow really well. They are rooted. I was rooting them in pond. They are currently rooted, but it seems like I have to water this thing almost on a daily basis. It's very interesting. And the last time I didn't, it dropped all of the new leaves that it was pushing out. And then right after that, it started pushing out more new leaves. So that's new, and then that one back there is new. This one is currently dry, so I am going to actually water it. Right behind here is my Croniana Silver, Super Silver. I think it's called Super Silver. And as you can see, this one does have a peduncle that's about to bud up, or bloom, I should say. That one has 2 peduncles on it, and I have it kind of swirled on top of the pot. And then this one right next to it is a Croniana Splash. No peduncles on this one, but it is growing extremely well. And then in the front here, I have a Hoya Sunrise, which gets really nice sun stressing on the leaves. And it has this longer vine as well. And then right back here is my Hoya Macrophylla, or actually it's probably Latifolia now, Hoya Latifolia Pot of Gold. So I had 1 long strand of it, and I rotted it because I think I took too long to water it, and then when I did water it, it didn't like it. So I chopped the strand up, and then I have these 3 pieces that are rooted, and then there's a new growth point popping out right back there that you probably can't see anyway. So back in this little mini greenhouse, I have some propagations that I was working on. Also some seedlings. So right here. This one was given to me as a blue magnificum. I know nothing about anthuriums really. I just wanted to kind of try my hands at some seedlings to see how they go. The one right back there is a corm that I rooted from my Alocasia Maharani. And then this one here is a Mark's Fantasy. I had a larger plant, and then I took some propagations, threw them in my prop box, and just left them there. I think I traded some. So this was last year, but then earlier this year I found some extra props at the bottom of my prop box. I don't know if you can see that. I'm hoping you can, or it might not be focused, but there are 3 propagations in there, or 4 maybe, and I just put them in some moss and allow them to climb up that pole, and we'll see what they do. I find that to be a plant that requires a lot in order to be pretty, or requires a lot in order to stay pretty, so we'll see. That was the original reason why I chopped the entire thing down, because I was just sick of it. And then this one in front is a Forgetii seedling. And then back there, which has nothing to show, there are some Alocasia dragon scale corms that are rooted and sprouting, but no leaves as of yet. So then that brings us down to the second Hoya shelf. And right in the back is a very large Latifolia alba marginata. It's pretty large, and it's wrapped around a trellis. In the front is a Hoya pubicalic splash. Oh, and between those two that I completely missed is actually a Hoya macrophylla, or Latifolia by Bua. I believe that's the name of it. It has like this green, like lime green kind of coloration or variegation, sort of. Again, you'll get a better look when I do a Hoya video. Right here to the right of it is a very full Hoya obscura. So it's in this small teeny tiny pot. I need to put it into a bigger pot, but it continuously is blooming, so I didn't want to risk putting it in a bigger pot while it's trying to bloom. I believe that one has about 7 peduncles going at the moment. This one just finished blooming, and I actually heard, is that gonna focus? There we go. And I actually heard that the flowers are supposed to smell like gardenia and Fruit Loops. I didn't really smell any Fruit Loops. I was very excited to smell that, but I didn't smell any Fruit Loops, and maybe a subtle hint of gardenia. It was very, very faint, I would say. I tried sniffing it both at night and in the morning. Right in front is a Hoya Dakie that took a long time for us to kind of get into a groove. It's consistently growing, but it would drop its leaves very easily. I had it in terracotta as well as a couple of other of my Hoyas, and in my care, in my environment, with my propensity to underwater, it did not like that. So I switched it to a ceramic pot to hold on to some moisture for longer, because it seems like this one likes water, or at least doesn't like to dry out as much as some other Hoyas do. And it's currently pushing out 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves, which it tends to do. So hopefully I can hold on to any of those leaves. The ones that I grew in my care were this one, which we had an unfortunate accident while it was hardening off. This one is actually newer, and then this one. So this was the first one, second one, and then this is the newest one. This one, I don't know what I was doing right, but I was doing something, because it's huge, and I love the splashing that you can see there on the leaves. Don't know what I did. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, and I'm talking a lot. All right, this one back here is a Hoya Chelsea. This was one of the ones that I had in terracotta and did terribly while I had it in terracotta, so I switched it to plastic about a month ago, and it's doing well so far. This one is a Hoya Carnosa compacta Monaloa. That's with the inner variegated leaves. This is one strand, but it's growing from 2 separate points. So it's growing from there, and it's growing back there as well. I'll eventually chop that down and propagate it, but I don't have the best success with propagating compactas. Actually, I can propagate compactas no problem, but when it comes to planting them up, that's when there's a problem. So I don't know if I want to risk that. Over to the right of that is a Hoya carnosa crinkle 8. It's back there. That was another one that I had trouble with while it was in terracotta. It was pushing out really, really tiny leaves, but it seems to be doing a lot better. And then to the right of that is an Hoya australis Lisa that I have growing. Over here is a Hoya carnosa compacta variegated. And this one has 4 pieces in it with quite a few growth points. I think there's like 2 on here, 2 on here, 1 and 1. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a very full pot. I recently put it under this grow light and it actually started growing quite a lot. So I have found that Hoya carnosa compactas, even though people say that they grow really slow, as long as you give them bright light, I think they grow just fine. And that's the same for this one, the Mauna Loa. It was probably this big when I got it last year, and it's grown really well so far. And it's only lived under this grow light. All right, we come down to the middle here. I have a Hoya sigillatus, and that's where you saw those cuttings up top that I'm going to be putting back into this pot and maybe trading a couple, we'll see. And then here's the Laurelin, the Hoya Kintiana Laurelin that I chopped those cuttings from. And then right here we have a Hoya caudata Sumatra. Its leaves are kind of pointing backwards. And then we have a Hoya Shepherdii, another of those that grew terribly when I had it in terracotta. So I switched it to plastic and almost immediately it perked up. All of these leaves were closed in on each other, I guess because they were very dehydrated. Almost immediately they all opened and it started pushing out like 4 new leaves. This is a new one right here that's leaning onto my Hoya polyneura, which is the fishtail Hoya. And then over in this corner is a Hoya nummularioides. Yep, that's that one. They're like fuzzy pubescent kind of leaves. And then this is a Hoya carnosa. It was actually given to me. It was thrown into an order. It was supposed to be, I think, Chelsea, and it did have like Chelsea leaves, Chelsea looking leaves. But now I feel like as it's growing out, it just looks like a carnosa. So I had rooted them separately with the intent to put it into the other pot of Chelsea that I had. But I'm glad that I rooted them separately because clearly it's grown out to look just like a regular carnosa, which is fine for me. But I would have been highly annoyed to have them in the same pot. So I'm glad I didn't do that. And then right in front is a Hoya engleriana, and it has a very long stem that I also need to prop. So I'll be propagating this and the Chinghungensis, potting it back into there. And then down on the bottom are this is kind of like my propagation station / rehab area. I'll take you quickly through. So I chopped down all of my Syngoniums. So that's my Syngonium frosted heart. That's my Albo Syngonium. There are 2 cups of those cuttings. And then, wait, those 2 are Albo Syngoniums. The one in the middle is Syngonium 3 Kings. So there's quite a few cuttings of that in that cup. And then over in this corner is some propagations of Hoya elliptica. And then all the way in the back, I chopped down my philodendron painted lady. So that's what that one is. I think it's like 3 or 4 cuttings in there. And up front, these 2, actually 1, 2, and 3 are Melanochrysums. I had 1 large plant. I chopped it down. These 2 lost their leaves, or the main leaves that were with it, and then starting to grow. They are both very well rooted, but they haven't really pushed out any growth. So there's a growth point on this one right there, and then this leaf is starting to try and poke out, but it hasn't done anything yet. And then this one's growth point is not doing anything as of yet. And this one grew this growth point So we should be having a leaf come through there fairly soon. This one here is a philodendron El Chaco Red. Nothing much to say about this at all. This leaf is actually getting ready to come through soon. And then it does have a second growth point right down there, which I find pretty cool. It's not going to focus, but there's a second growth point right down there, which is really cool. It is growing, the growth point, so it's going to do something. We'll see. And then right back here is my philodendron pastazana that I had to rehab and reroot. It is well rooted and it's pushing out new leaves, and actually started a second growth point, which is also very cool. So I can't wait to see when that one gets bigger. And then right here is an Alocasia sinuata that the roots had rotted, so I put it into here along with a couple of corms, and they are rooted and doing all right. So I'll leave them in there until they're ready to be potted with the bigger plant. And I do have some things not worth mentioning, but some philodendron brandianum propagations right here, and then a very, very sad philodendron Brazil that I don't want to talk about. I'm debating if I want to kind of rehab it and put it on a pole and make it look nice and pretty. I don't really know. Oh, this thing is so dusty. Oh gosh, I should dust. Anyway, so that's my shelf. So those are all four areas of my shelf. And then over here in the corner, I have some other plants. So that's my main brandianum plant right there. Growing growing some pretty nice leaves. This is another one that I find that it takes a lot to make it pretty. So I recently switched it over to semi-hydro, and it's doing very well. It's pushing out really big leaves. I think it really likes a lot of humidity, so that's where I'll leave it now. I do have those other cuttings that I just showed you. I originally thought that I would pot everything together, but I don't want a huge pot of philodendron brandy, so I'm gonna do something with them. And then right back here is a philodendron splendid, which is a cross between Melanochrysum and Verrucosum, and I absolutely love it. It has some leaves that aren't liking me, so I have this in semi-hydro. Well, I just recently switched it, and these two leaves show me my errors. I basically kept it dry for too long, watered it, then they looked terrible. So I gotta kind of figure that out. But it grows really fast, and it seems to like where it is. This one right next to it is a philodendron verrucosum. Same thing, also in like a semi-hydro setup with pond, and it seems to like it. The leaves are sizing up quite nicely, and they both grow pretty fast. All right, so over in my window, the plant bench is what I like to call it. These plants face the sun, obviously, so I'll turn them to face us so that you can kind of get an actual view of them. Don't want to smack everybody. Okay, so over on the left is a silver sword philodendron. Nothing much to say. They do have beautiful like bluish grayish leaves. Then this is a philodendron burl marks variegated. Yeah, variegated burl marks. And then this one here is a Jose Bueno, philodendron Jose Bueno. I will be putting this on a pole soon. I was just kind of waiting for this newest leaf to unfurl. I'll be putting it on a pole and putting it in this pot here. It needs a larger pot, but I'm just waiting until it's ready. And again, these all face the sun, so they face the window so that they grow well. This one next to it is a philodendron ploumannii. That's kind of like a rehab, not kind of, it is a rehab. This is the newest leaf, so it looks fine. It's still not fully hardened off, but still not as large as it used to be. I just chopped this leaf. This was the oldest one. And the thing with this plant, all of the roots are pretty much on this base part here. It didn't really have any roots along the stem, so I did air layer it with some moss to get some roots growing, which it did start doing. And then I potted it into this planter, which is from Target. So there's soil down at this end, and then mostly leca at the bottom here and a little bit of soil on top. I just didn't want to create an environment that was conducive to root rot. I didn't want all of this to hold too much moisture since the plant still has a long way to grow. So once these roots establish, I'll likely chop this here and allow this to grow a new plant. There's actually maybe 2 or 3 nodes below the soil here. So I'll chop it and let that grow into a new plant. And oh, what I didn't show you, I forgot to show you on my shelf. I actually have 3, I think 4 Plowmanii. Let me show you. I believe I have a few Plowmanii chunks in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 Plowmanii chunks going in there. So I'll be potting up maybe a couple of those and then using some others for trades. This one right next to it is a Philodendron nigritans, which I absolutely love. I feel like this is a very underrated plant. Ignore the ripped leaf. This is its newest leaf, but humidity was low and it was trying to unfurl, and that's what happened. She's not fully hardened off yet, but these leaves are like the perfect heart shape. They're perfectly pillowy. The stems or the petioles are not fuzzy, but they just have that interesting texture there. It's a really beautiful plant. The other leaves that I have on it are actually the oldest leaves. They're import leaves that it didn't drop. They just don't look the greatest. And these other 2 leaves grew under grow light, which was too harsh for this plant, so it didn't develop those really dark green leaves. So I'm hoping that the newest ones that come out right in front of this window will grow to be that deep, rich, dark green color. And there's a new leaf that'll be coming out soon enough. And then right next to that is my Philodendron biliaceae. It is also facing the window, and it lives over here next to my dog. Let's see. Oh boy. Okay. So there she is in all of her glory. And she grew really big for me. I kind of was scared, or I bought a small plant so that it wouldn't be too big. And then she started growing like really big leaves. And this one back here that's facing the wrong direction. But I still love her nonetheless. And then continuing on in my living room, over here is my Alocasia station, as I like to call it. So right here on the left is my Alocasia dragon scale. I have a few corms from this one that I'm rooting, and they all seem to take the longest out of all of the corms. It's also flowering right now and pushing out a new leaf. Over the winter, my Alocasias didn't actually go dormant. They did drop a couple of leaves, and then this was the first one. It grew in probably at the end of winter, so it's considerably smaller than the leaves that it had previously. Also a little bit of like dehydration or stress showing down at the bottom, but that's fine. Same with the black velvet. It lost maybe 1 or 2 leaves, but then all of these others have been here. This was the newest one that came out within the last few weeks, and it's pushing out a new leaf at the moment. And then this leaf is one of the oldest, not the oldest, but it looks absolutely terrible. Just haven't cut it off yet. Still green. And then this one in the front is my Maharani. This one lost the most leaves, but it did still hang on to 2. And as you can see, this one's on its way out. This one was already bleached from the grow light. It was too close at one point, but it is yellowing. It was like lime green from the grow light, but it is yellowing now, and it's pushing out a new leaf at the moment. These back here are newer additions. So this one in the front is my Alocasia Ninja, which is very similar to the black velvet, which is right here, but it looks a bit different and it feels a bit different. I think maybe you would need to see it in person to see how different they are. This one back here is my Infernalis Capit. I believe that's what it's called, and it has some crisping down at the bottom, which I think might be fungal. So I'm going to treat that. And then this one is a Heterophylla Dragon's Breath. It's like a very silvery kind of sheen. It has a new leaf coming out. This one over here is a nebula with some hard water stains. Now this is one that I purchased because I love the way they look mature. I don't love the way they look immature, but we'll get there. I just bought a baby because it was a great price. I think it was like 50% off at Gabriella Plants. And then this one here is a Sinuata, or Quilted Dreams. Very similar in appearance to like a dragon scale or even a scalprum, but different. Same but different. No, but similar. But if you see them next to one another, it's easier to tell the difference between them all. So that's it for this corner. These here are newer. They've been treated and everything, but I haven't set them up into their own pots. I haven't changed any of the soil or anything. They're still kind of adjusting. I wait about a month or 2 months after a plant comes in to do all of that. So that's my Alocasia corner, which will be set up and pretty and all that soon enough. All right, and the next plant, I just have this, which will be considered a Scindapsus exotica, and I say consider because it was part of my silver splash, about a 6-inch silver splash. I had it for about a year or so, but when I went to repot, I noticed that these 3 vines clearly look like exotica to me, not like silver splash at all. So I separated them, put it into a smaller plant. I may give that to a friend or something, we'll see, because I have another exotica already. Speaking of which, this is the silver splash that was a part of that. As you can see, silver splash looks like pixelated, so it has a different pattern than the exotica has. So it's clear to tell the difference between the two, which is why I wanted to separate them. And then right above that, I have a Scindapsus Jade Satin, which is doing extremely well. It's actually, it needs to be put into a bigger pot. I'm not doing that because I want to keep it in this spot. So I don't know, we'll see. And it has this really long vine that I planned to propagate. But the question is, then what am I going to do with those propagations? I don't know. So this one up top is a Epipremnum Panatum Baltic Blue. So I bought one of those larger plants that Costa Farm sells, and I split it up. I have this one and a smaller one that I'm going to give to my friend. So that's what that is. And then this right here, this is not her spot where she always lives, but this is where she currently lives. This is my Maranta Silver Band. So my Silver Band's prayer plant. We had spider mites some months ago. So some of the older leaves look terrible, if you want to know what that looks like. So it's that. So you can see like in the middle, that damage down the middle, and then some of these older ones just fold up and won't unfold. So, but the newer leaves all look great. So that's her, and I love her. And she grows really fast. She was a huge bush, and I just recently chopped it back, and I have some propagations of that. So the last area in my living room is at the top of my television cabinet. Maybe hard to see with the lighting. Let me turn that off. Only slightly better, not that much. So that one all the way over to the left is just a jade pothos, and then a golden pothos right next to it. Don't focus on my finger. And then the third one in is a neon pothos, and then that's a Monstera siltopacana, and then that's an Epipremnum Cebu Blue, and then that last one is a pothos Pearls and Jade. So those are all there. The siltopacana and the Cebu, I want to move them because I don't want them to be vining. I like when they get the larger leaves. Like my Cebu Blue actually had larger leaves with fenestrations and all that. And then I popped it up there, and then it just has little tiny leaves now. So I want to move those someplace. I just don't know where as of yet. Moving into my living room, which is a bit of a mess because we just had work done to install a new AC. But I'll take you through nonetheless. So over here at this window, I made these plant hangers, by the way. But over here at this window, I have a few Hoyas on this first shelf. So this is a Weyadii. And I don't know why I still get confused with the difference between Weyadii and Kintiana. I think this one's a Weyadii, right? And then the variegated one is variegated Kintiana. The inner variegated. The other one that you saw on my shelf over there was the outer variegated called Lori Lynn. This one in the middle is a Hoya australis. I'm not sure what type of australis, but just a green australis. I do know that there are a few different ones, I think. This is a crimson queen right here with a pretty vine. And then let me take you on this side. So this one is the Dischidia oeantha, the variegated. And right next to here is another Dischidia. That's a rucifolia variegated. And that one has a few vines. And then this is a compacta carnosa variegated, just one little strand. It does have a couple of growth points on this strand, but I thought it was really cute in this planter to give her some hair, a little side do. And then up on this shelf, I have another Hoya carnosa compacta sold as a snowball. It's, in my opinion, just a crimson queen, but with rounder leaves, almost like a Chelsea. So it has rounder, slightly dimpled leaves. And then my arm's getting tired. This one to the right of it is a Hoya Bretonnier Af. So that's that one. And you see it gets the sun stressing on the newer leaves. And then this last one up here on the shelf is a Hoya Crimson Princess. And then taking you down here in the same window is the other half of that Baltic Blue Epiprimnum. This one is for my friend. Right next to that is, I believe, a Thanksgiving cactus. And then Ripsalis. That's what it's called. So that one's a Ripsalis paradoxa. And then that one at the end is a Ripsalis pilocarpa. It gets like these fuzzy strands, both of which are growing really nicely at the start of this spring season. Now here is what I call my Syngonium table. As I said, I chopped down all of my Syngoniums. Oh, where the heck are they? I don't know. So this is my Thai Pink Splash Syngonium, and I was just trying to think of where the heck the propagations are, but I know where they are. But I chopped the entire thing all the way back, and then these sprouted. And then this is my Syngonium Chia Pins, which is looking very dusty, but I chopped this one back as well. And then these are all of the cuttings of that, still rooting out. This is the mother plant of my Syngonium albo that I have here. There's quite a few stems in here, and they're all sprouting up new growth at the moment. And then this one here is my Three Kings Syngonium, or Jade Syngonium, or Magic Marble Syngonium. This one again was chopped back. And then this one up in the front is my Syngonium Winlandii. This one I also recently chopped back. And this one is in passive hydro. Actually, no drainage. I have it potted in no drainage, and it needs water all the time. And I always forget. So I'm thinking about maybe switching it to self-watering or something. We'll see. Okay, so also in the dining room area, I have this large Monstera Deliciosa that I recently got from Lowe's. This huge pot that has 5 plants in it was only 16 bucks. I couldn't say no. I couldn't pass it up. She's very beautiful. And in this window, I have a red Maranta, a red prayer plant. Let me take this out so you can get a better look. That's my red prayer plant that lives in that window, and she loves it. And then this one is a newer acquisition. This is my Philodendron Dean McDowell. And I just love these leaves. This is the newest leaf that just unfurled. And as soon as that leaf hardens off, I will likely pot her up into another planter, a long planter, so that she can kind of settle in, because she's at the edge of this pot. And it was causing a bit of damage to this new section here. So I did try and shift her over more, but I actually can't move her over anymore. So as soon as that leaf is done hardening off, I'm going to put it in a long planter. All right, so I said I knew where those pink splash propagations were. So I'm turning this into a plant cabinet for propagations and things that I want to grow out. I'm in the process of doing that, but that's where those Syngonium pink splash propagations are. And these are all fully rooted. I've just been slow about potting them up. So that's where those are. And then I have some Alocasia black velvet, some of the corms that sprouted from my main plant. And then this is an Alocasia, commonly referred to as a fried egg, but it's a Michelitziana. The fried egg is normally the variegated version, which I would love to have. But this is just the green version, and that's the newest leaf there. And then these are green dragon corms that are rooted and sprouted, but no leaves as of yet. All right, and right near the doors that lead out to my deck is what I call my Alocasia corner. I'm gonna turn these lights off. So this is my Alocasia corner. And everything's looking pretty crowded. Everything's looking pretty crowded at the moment, but that's okay. So starting from the top, I have my Calathea corner. This is a Calathea jungle velvet. This one is a Zebrina. This one is a Warsawickii, also known as a jungle velvet, with a very yellow leaf back there. And then coming forward, this one is, what is the name of that? Flame Star. This one is a Calathea Flame Star. This one is an Orbifolia, which is right next to my fasciata. So these two are very similar, the Orbifolia and the fasciata, in terms of the leaf shape, but you can see the coloring is a bit different. And then this one that sprawled out over everyone is a Medallion Marion. Or no, Rosiopicta Marion, that's what it's called. And then right in front here is Calathea Freddy, I believe that's the name of it. And then this one over here is Rattlesnake Calathea, or Calathea lancifolia. Did I get them all? No. And then there are these two little ones. So this is a very sad ornata that is sprouting 3 new leaves down there. And then this one under here is a Makoyana. It's very small as well. And now I think I got all of them. So this is my Calathea corner. And like I said, I don't want to do a care video on Calatheas because, I don't know, they're difficult in general. But I have found that anything that kind of grows in your environment, especially if it grows like from the soil, like if you chop it all back or it dies back and then it grows in your environment, it'll survive a lot longer. For instance, I've had this rotundifolia or fasciata. I believe it goes by both names. I've had this for 2, maybe 3 years. But this is probably the 3rd time it's grown back. So it happens, and Calatheas don't stay pretty all the time. So if you are up for the challenge and you love what their leaves look like, I say go for it. Otherwise, don't even bother. Now I'll swing you over to my jungle kind of corner, or actually this is the jungle corner that I'm building. It's not quite done yet. We have my Philodendron Majestic, which is a hybrid between, what is it? It's between a Philodendron verrucosum and a Philodendron soderoy. And this one I so love. I don't even think this lighting is really doing it justice, but they have like this camouflage looking kind of pattern on the leaves. This is actually my favorite leaf. It's not the biggest, it's the smallest, but it's so dark and deep green and I love it. And you can see that silvery camo kind of pattern. As you can see, it's really tall. This is a 4-foot pole and I need to chop it down. This is a new leaf. So I'm going to be chopping it down soon, which is why I have this air layer. So this one is rooted up at the top. That one's a wet stick. There's no leaf attached to it. It's not quite rooted yet. And I think this one and this one, those are rooted because I had them on there since like last fall. The others are not. So I'll be rooting out all of the ones that are not rooted, growing this top part as my main plant, I believe, and keeping the base as my main plant, but we'll see, who knows. And then right over here is my Anthurium pallidiflorum. This one I got from the Equigenera pop-up show last October. I knew that I loved a pallidiflorum, but I didn't quite know what I was getting myself into in terms of the size. This leaf, the last time I measured it, is still not hardened off yet. Last time I measured it was maybe 4 or 5 days ago. It was already at 25 inches long. And it may grow more. And it's putting out a new leaf again. So I don't know what I got myself into. This is the second leaf that's grown in my care. This one was the first leaf that grew out over the winter and clearly has some damage. I'm sure because of humidity. I don't know, but it's just in regular room humidity. And it's done fine so far, and it's extremely well rooted. This is what I acclimated and rooted it in. It's just in perlite, and it's been in there since I got it in October. It had a lot of roots, but most of them were broken, so I pretty much chopped off all the roots that it did have, let it root out in that perlite, and that's where it's been living ever since, and it seems to love it. I do have to water it every couple of days because it dries out extremely fast. But it likes it here. I am going to switch it out to a larger pot soon. I was waiting for this leaf to harden off. But I'll keep it in the same semi-hydro type setup because it seems to enjoy it. Over here is what I call my jungle corner. So this majestic will be leaving. It'll be moving someplace else. So this won't be a part of this whole jungle corner once I chop it up. So this one is a Philodendron burl marks. And then right back here is a Philodendron mayoi. And it looks really crazy. It's like zigging and zagging. There's 2 plants in here. I just started this air layering right here so that I can kind of chop it and make it grow fuller, straighter. We'll see. This one over here is a Philodendron pedatum that needs an extension on the pole. This is the newest leaf. And then right below that is my Philodendron bipennifolium that also needs an extension on its pole. This is the newest leaf on that one. So outside, I'm not going out there, but I have a fiddle leaf fig tree right there. And then over on that table that I hope you can see through my cloudy glass is, what do you call it? I'll go out there. It's called the Euphorbia Ghost, White Ghost. A Euphorbia Ghost cactus. And we're still in the process of setting up all the outdoor spaces and the deck and everything, which is why it looks so bare. But that one lives out there from spring through fall, and it grows a lot. And then I'll bring it in the fall and it won't grow at all. I stick it in a corner. I think I water it maybe once over like the winter season. That's about it. And then when spring rolls around, I put her right back outside and she loves it. So here, continuing on my first floor, is the plants in my kitchen window. So this one is a Homelamina Emerald Gem that needs a larger pot and has some yellow leaves down there. Just ignore them. These are the propagations from my Syngonium Winlandii. And then these are the propagations from my Maranta, my silver band Maranta that I have in there. This is a jade succulent that I'll probably be getting rid of soon. Just don't love her anymore. And then this is a story. So this is a Maranta, obviously. It was my variegated Maranta that I neglected. It died all the way back, completely back. I thought it was a goner. I thought it was garbage. And then it just started sprouting these huge leaves, actually. So then I thought that it was fully reverted, but it doesn't seem to be fully reverted, because that one has a little bit of variegation. That one has a tiny little spot. And then as you can see, this spot grew out some variegation. But I think there are like 2 plants in here. This one, obviously. And these leaves are huge. But there's this one, and I feel like maybe 1 or 2 others that don't really look variegated. Like this one has slight speckling, but not much. So I'm going to keep this together and kind of see what happens. And then right next to that is a orchid that I've had for quite a long time, and I am happy to announce that I've been able to get it to like continuously bloom. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really think I'm doing anything special. It's still in the moss that it came in, which I need to switch that out. I just know nothing about orchids. So yeah, there's that. And then here are some Peperomia Hope propagations. This is all that I have left. I don't do well with peperomias. So yeah, these are rooted and growing. I think I'll probably put that in some type of semi-hydro setup. And then this was given to me as a Hoya Freckles? Sprinkles? I think Freckles, I don't remember. It doesn't have a lot of speckling or splash though. Also, I had this right in a window and it kind of bleached out the leaves a bit. So that's that, still recovering from being bleached out. And then up here in my stairway, and I'm gonna have to fix this lighting, but I have my all green Carnosa compacta, Hoya Carnosa compacta. It is growing, it is sprouting, it's liking life here. I decided to give it more sun because I actually want to get this to flower. I've had it for 4, maybe 5 years. And it hasn't because I pretty much neglect it. And then that one there, I actually did repot it. It was in one of those 8-inch baskets that you get from like the hardware store. But I did repot it and I separated a lot of it. So this is a smaller version of it, but it's still growing well since it's been hanging in this window. And this window is facing west. And then that's my Hoya obovata, which is really big. I'll have to fix and adjust the lighting on this for you. But she likes hanging out in this spot as well. It's really big, really full in there. And then right down on the same windowsill, I have this one that I believe to be a Bertonier Af. I believe this came bundled with this plant here that is a Hoya Rosita, which is a combo of Bertonier and Weyadii, I believe. So this clearly looks different from the one that I just showed you. They were together in the same pot. I just separated them because I think they're different. And then this one here is my Hoya Bella, the green version. And I'm trying to figure out how to get her peduncles to stay. I have a second one currently. The first one fell off. I have a second one. I hope I still have it somewhere. I have heard that they need really consistent, oh, it's right here. I've heard that they need really consistent watering in order to bud up. I don't know why this can't focus. Pretty bad. Okay, she's right there, one little peduncle. I've heard that they need consistent watering in order to flower, which is what I'm trying to give her. And in the landing of my stairs, I have 3 plants. The plants aren't new, but these planters are. Maybe difficult to see. So up there, that's a lemon lime heartleaf philodendron, and then that's a philodendron micans. that has gotten too much sun in a previous place, so I'm hoping it likes it here better. And then this one is a Marble Queen pothos. I actually think it's a Snow Queen pothos that hasn't gotten light in a very long time. So I'm hoping that putting it in this spot will be good for it, and a lot of that nice Snow Queen marbling will come back. And we're winding down. Over on this shelf, well, this is the plant shelf in my hallway, my upstairs hallway. So right up at the top, we have Heartleaf Philodendron that drapes just all the way down. I normally cut it back every so often. And then right up there is a Hoya Lacunosa Royal Flush. I would also like to give that one more light so that I can get some flowers. Ignore the light bulbs. And then the next shelf, these are kind of plants that were on their way out of my collection, but I decided to hold on to them to see what happens. So this one is my Standleyana, what is it called? Monstera Standleyana Albo. And I just recently chopped it back, and I'm propagating a couple of those. And it has this growth point that it sprouted, that it's working on. I'm gonna keep this one. I just don't know where I'm gonna keep it just yet. And then this one back here is my Philodendron Pink, what's it called? Pink Princess Philodendron. We've struggled. It didn't give me any pink. I cut it back into like 7 or 8 plants, I think. In this pot, I have just 2 plants. One plant has 2 growth points, and then this is the top cut from the original plant that had no pink. It would give me all pink leaves, and then all green, and then all pink, and then all green. So I chopped it back. And then this was the first leaf it put out with any kind of irrigation, but of course it put it out over the winter, and this is what it looks like. It looks absolutely terrible. And then this was the next leaf, so I do have some pink splashing on there, which is nice. And then this is the newest leaf, which doesn't really give me anything. It's got a couple of pink dots on there, but that's about it. And then back in the back is my Philodendron Florida Ghost. She deserves a place of honor. She's just here because I haven't found where her place will be just yet. There are 3 plants in that pot. And then this one in the front is my Rhaphidophora decursiva. These plants, I think in general, don't grow all that well indoors, especially if they're smaller. That's my personal opinion. It is currently sprouting a new leaf, but I think as soon as it gets done with that, I'm going to put that into some kind of passive hydro, because I believe it grows better that way. As soon as I switch this thing to soil, first of all, it took forever to root in passive hydro, but it did, and it grew a couple of leaves. And then as soon as I switched it to soil, all the leaves did this, like it's dehydrated, and they won't uncurl. Also, all the growth points continue to die back and then start again and then die back. There's one there. And then start again and then die back. So I think it prefers either, I don't know, consistent moisture or just something I'm not giving it. And I really have no tolerance or patience for plants that I have to work at really hard to keep pretty. So that's why she's on her way out. And I'm about to lose some space on my memory card, so let's move this along. This is a Syngonium Batic, or Syngonium Batik, that I will be moving to my Syngonium table. So up front are a few cuttings, and then the back is the main plant. And then here is a Hoya Patchouli 23, or Icensis, also known as Hoya Icensis, right there. And then that's a Hoya Carmele in the back. This one is a Hoya Crassipediolata. And this is a Hoya Quinquenervia. Right there, putting out a new leaf. And then this one is a Syngonium Erythrophyllum that needs to be watered. Also needs a bigger pot. Alright, what else? So down here at the bottom, I have 2 Hoyas. There's a Hoya Parasitica Splash right back there in the back, and then a Hoya Calistophylla there. All of these Hoyas on this shelf I think will be moved down to my other Hoya area. And then right in the front I have a Philodendron Soderoy, a little teeny tiny baby. And then back there, a Monstera Peru, which is another one that I feel like I have to work at to keep pretty. There were 5 stems in that pot. There's now 1 stem. I don't know what happened. It just happened. And I don't find great luck in rooting them. Like, they will root, but they take a really long time to root, and I just can't be bothered. So that's another plant that may be on its way out. Oh, over here is Syngonium macrophylla. That shouldn't be here. I was supposed to be tossing it, but no, I'm not going to toss it. I just don't know what I'm going to do with it. Obviously, I need to chop it back because it's really big. But it's been there for like a month. It's been fine, so I don't know. In my son's room, I just have this one philodendron heartleaf, green heartleaf that's hanging there. And then in my bathroom, I have 2 marantas. Only the lemon lime is supposed to be living here, and I need to put it up on a plant hanger in this window. And then this is a variegated maranta, but this is only giving me like lime variegation. I like the ones with the whiter or more creamy variegations. I do like the lime, but I wondered if I put it in higher light, if it would give me white, or if that's like 2 separate types of maranta. I don't know. All right, and the last place that I have plants in my home is my bedroom, and it's very messy in here. I make no apologies. So let me show you what I got. So up here I have some philodendron micans living in water. They started out as cuttings, and I just have kept them there, and they will probably always stay there. And then right next to that are some propagations of Syndapsis trubii, I think some micans, and things that I need to do something with. And then over here is my Syndapsis exotica that lives here. I just watered it, so she will perk up soon. She goes very slow. She's pulled back from a south-facing window, but I think they grow slow in general. And then this requires some explanation. So I have these strings of hearts. That one is a variegated string of hearts. This one is a regular green string of hearts. This one is a string of daggers. Yeah, it was sold to me as a string of daggers. This is a green string of hearts. And then this one is Silver Glory. That doesn't look very silver or glorious. I'm trying to find you a leaf that shows that it's actually a Silver Glory. So that's one. I've neglected them. They're kind of on their way out. They look neglected, clearly. And this is not where they live. I wanted to move them from the other spot to put other plants in. And I've just been housing them here for about a week or 2 until I decide what I want to do with them. But I will say that variegated string of hearts has actually outperformed my neglect, which I am very impressed by. For that reason, she might stay if I can find a place for her to go. This one is a Silvery Ann Syndapsis, also a very slow grower. That's all I have to say about that. Oh, and then down here is my Syndapsis trubii, the mother plant that needs, I think she needs her soil freshened up. I don't think light is the issue. All of the older leaves are kind of dying off, and the newer leaves that she's putting out are smaller than the older ones were. I think she just needs fresh soil. She needs some fertilization, and then we'll see how that goes. Maybe some root pruning, I don't know. And then over here again, we have places where plants don't live regularly, but they're just here for the moment. So this is my philodendron soderoy, which is one of my most favorite philodendrons ever. And then right next to that is a little philodendron El Chaco red that has been on the struggle bus forever, but I do have a couple of leaves on it. They're just not very pretty leaves. And obviously I'm very hopeful, because I gave it a long pole or a tall pole that I'm hoping it can climb, but it is pushing out a new leaf, and I'm hoping that now that it's warmer it will grow a lot better than it was previously. Okay, so this is my Monstera Thai constellation. She's rooted. She's growing really well. The leaves are quite large, but she hasn't done anything since I've had her, since last August. She was a 40th birthday gift to myself. And I've also had to cut off all of the chunks of like the creamy white variegation that she had because they started to brown. So the top of this leaf was creamy white, the top of that leaf, top of that leaf down there. Also had to cut off. All of the roots that she had completely rotted off, but she's grown a lot of new roots. And I think that's what she's focusing on now. I'm inclined to believe, where are they? That she's just focusing on putting out new roots now. It wasn't a 4-inch pot, and the new roots that it grew was kind of busting out of that. So I moved her to a 6-inch pot, which I kind of feel like if I kept her a little under potted, maybe she would have grown some leaves for me, but I'd rather her grow a lot of roots because I feel like for this size plant, she should have had a lot more roots in the first place. So this one in the window is my Hoya linearis that needs a good watering. This one is growing in pond and I keep it in semi-hydro. So I want to take it off of here though to rinse all the leaves off and to rinse out the pond, which is why I haven't quite watered her yet. I'll do that one day soon. But I am going to be chopping this one back as well. I think I counted about 6 strands down here that I'm going to be chopping, and I'll propagate them and stick them right back in the top of the pot because I want it to branch out over on the left. Pothos Enjoy. And then right next to that is a tiny fairy castle cactus. And this window, which is where I moved my strings of hearts from, I have nothing on that top shelf yet. Here I have my Hoya curtisii that I have been neglecting, but now I'm giving her some light because I want her to get really full and long. And then I also have my silver dollar, is it called a succulent? I don't know. It's the real name is like a Xerocyssus danguii or some similar kind of name, also known as a silver dollar plant though. And then a few more of my prides and joys that I'm going to kind of flip around. I'm hoping it's not too backlit. So this is my Monstera albo borzigiana. That is what it is. So that's her. She's getting really big and I love her so much. This is her newest leaf. It's not fully hardened off just yet. I think she currently has about 13 leaves. And I do have this one on one of those lazy poles, and she is well rooted into it and she is loving it. I experimented with putting this saran wrap around it, around the front, to help hold in some moisture. Since this is an 8-inch pot and I don't water it super often, I can't wait that long in order to water the moss pole. So I put that saran wrap on it to see if that would hold in some of the moisture for longer, and it does seem to. So this is a slightly better view of the albo. And then right next to her, this is my Philodendron gloriosum. This leaf is like my favorite leaf. It's so massive, so beautiful. And then this leaf. But there's a story. So she was flowering, and while she was flowering, it kind of put a number or did a number on her and stunted all the other growth. So what happened while the plant was flowering, all of the leaves, I'm trying to get you a better view, all of the leaves completely laid down flat, so they stopped standing up. I put this little stick in here to help it stand up, but it's now starting to. I eventually cut off the flower, and then, oh, during that time also, this is the leaf that had come up. So it grew up and it was still furled for about 2 months, or like almost 2 months. So I knew that was not a good sign. So as soon as I cut the flower, then this leaf started to unfurl, and when it did, it was really soft and mushy right there in the center. So that's what we're left with. I'm gonna leave it because it's still getting some kind of nutrients from, you know, the green parts at least. And I'll put her back in her spot. And she does have a new leaf that'll be coming up there pretty soon. So I'm hopeful about that one will look just as beautiful as the leaf previously. Oh, and here are the other plants that I have living outside on my porch. I have my Ficus elastica tinike and my Ficus elastica burgundy. I find that in my environment, in my home, ficus do not grow. In the fall and winter, I don't think I'm able to give them enough sunlight or enough light in general. That goes for my fiddle leaf fig as well as these. So I will put these outside during the spring and summer. As you can see, though, this Altissima, also called the yellow gem, dropped all of its leaves. And I debated keeping it, but I'll see what it does over this spring and summer outdoors. And then the next one I have over here is my Hoya carrii. She's primarily outdoors because I don't know where to put her. Inside. So that's why she's here, and she is growing in pone. So that was my 2022 houseplant tour, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about any of the plants that I showed, my care for them or anything, feel free to leave that down below and I'll get right back to you. I also forgot to mention that my living room faces southwest. So that was the lighting that you saw. My dining room, therefore, faces northeast where my Calatheas are. So I have like some mature trees back there. So in the spring and summer, they actually don't get hardly any light, which is why I have a lot of artificial lights going on back there. My bedroom is facing southwest where you saw the Albo Monstera. I think that's generally it. Everything else is under grow lights, and I do have grow lights on my plant shelves, which I will have linked in my Amazon store, so you can check that link out down below. And if there are any other questions that I did not cover, feel free to ask them down below. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more information about my philodendron collection, Hoya collection, Alocasia collection, not Calathea collection. Be sure to subscribe, and those videos will be coming out very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.